Whenever we reach the halfway point of one of these books, there's always a certain sense of accomplishment. As we may have mentioned once or twice, reading these books is not the easiest thing in the world.
I don't particularly want to immortalize my flu face and voice, but it's appropriate because this book makes me ill.
Believe it or not, we've actually reached that point in 50 Shades Darker, so in keeping with the tradition we started in 50 Shades of Grey, we are vlogging the midway point, chapter 11.
The chapter begins in the billiard room. There are no deaths. Gray sinks the 8-ball, he wins the bet, so he gets to fuck Anna on the pool table. After Gray wins, he looks at her with what she describes as, quote, an "I so own you steel smile." What? So he gets a ruler for their pool table sexy times, and like, I know that we've actually already covered this, but they've been back together for a weekend now, right? And before they got back together, he was all, "I am totally not ever gonna hit you again, even if you beg." It's been like 3 days and we're already busting out rulers. So that's a thing. That's a thing that's happening.
Gray's mouth twists around and then he murmurs at her that she's not going to be a sore loser, is she? And she whispers back that that depends on how hard he hits her. And I think that's a fair point, because let's say he hits her to death. At that point, I think you're a sore loser. At that point, I bet you're thinking, wow, losing sucks. He says how hard he hits her is dependent on what she's done wrong throughout the day. And he's holding 3 things against her. The first is that she made him jealous of his own staff back when she was talking to Taylor, who is a guy that is not Gray. So, you know, that's a big deal. The second is that she was arguing with him about going back to work. Remember when she was all, "I can't depend on you because I've only known you for 5 weeks and we've only been back together for a weekend, so I should probably make my own living." That was not appreciated. And the third thing is that apparently she was shaking her butt around while they were playing pool. Grievous indeed. Gray demands that she take her clothes off, and then he goes to lock the door. And we get Sweeney's favorite thing in the entire world, and oh my. Suddenly she's all hot, bothered, and damp in the right places. There's the wrong place, like on your brow, wrong place, under your arm, wrong place. She has to make that distinction for us. They play another round of stupid pool, and not really, it's just Anna taking aim and trying to sink a ball, but every time she goes to hit the ball, he hits her and she misses. This happens 3 times for reasons that are really beyond me. And then at the end, when she misses the last shot, he's like, "Now I'm going to really, really hit you," as opposed to the hitting that I was doing before, because you in fact missed that last ball.
Inner Goddess makes another appearance. She's like limbering up and doing floor exercises or whatever. And then this bitch is fucking tangoing again.
So then, you know, the actual sexy times portion of this happens, and we get even better than an oh my, an oh fucking my, because it was that good. After that, they go and they take a bath together, and Anna decides that she wants to ask Christian a question. Gray's all, "Of course you can ask me a question," because he hasn't been present for the previous chapters, where every time that she asks a question, he's all, "Oh, I don't want to talk about this," and then he changes the subject, or he uses kisses or some sort of gift as manipulation to switch the subject away from that, and in fact not answer what she's asking him.
She begs for permission to only have an escort to and from work. It's just really frustrating that she has to beg for permission for this, but whatever. And then Gray pretends he's like oh so magnanimous for relenting to this request. Part of how she wins this amazing thing is that she promises not to leave during the day. They
wake up the next morning to the alarm clock, and Gray is getting ready for work, and she marvels at how pretty he is, and she's late for work, and she jumps out of bed and she gets ready for work, and blah blah blah, stuff that nobody cares about. Sawyer shows up, and he's the bodyguard that's actually gonna deliver Anna to work, and they go downstairs to the car where Taylor is, and Anna actually takes this opportunity to apologize for Taylor in case she got him in trouble by talking to him. And Taylor's like, "Nah man, the Red Power Rangers don't get in trouble." Something like that. I'm paraphrasing.
She calls Taylor taciturn. She always calls him taciturn, and it really pisses me off because you know what? He's really just kind of moody about the fact that the Red Ranger has been downgraded to babysitting a moron.
Anna gets to work and her boss is like, "We've got stuff to do." So naturally she turns on the computer and starts emailing Gray.
Fire up my email page now. This book was fan fiction, which means it was like published on the internet. You have to have enough of a working knowledge of the internet and like internet communities and the like to find yourself in a fan fiction community. So all of her nonsensical descriptions of internet-y things just boggle my mind.
The email says, "Thank you for the weekend despite all the drama," which was the whole thing with the GSP where she was trying to murder their faces off. And then he says, "I hope you never leave. Ever." In the email, do you guys remember a few chapters ago where Anna was like, "Hey, I'm going to break up with you because I don't like the way that you need to hit me in this relationship?" And Gray was like, "I don't know what that means, so I'm going to keep emailing you, sending you flowers, and hey, also, I bought the company that you work for." So that whole news that Gray Enterprises now owns her company has been embargoed, and he reminds her of that and then tells her to please delete her email after she reads it. He signs the email, "Christian Gray, CEO, Gray Enterprises," or whatever, and your boss's boss, because it's so funny that he did that he bought her company while they were broken up, and it's really not funny at all. Anna writes back, is like, "Do you want me to move in with you? And also, I realize that I can't talk to anybody about your epic stalking capabilities." And she actually says that. Like, she recognizes, hey, I'm dating an epic stalker. And then she just signs it with, "I love you," and X's, because yay, epic stalking.
Jack, her boss, invites her to this conference in New York.
And they're going to go in Wednesday and sleep overnight. And as he says this, he's wearing a polite smile, but his eyes darken. E.L. James cheats at narrating. We're getting this entire thing from Anna's point of view, but she injects these little things so that we get clues about the characters and situations, but nobody's eyes darken. Nobody has clouds coming across their eyes when they have unhonorable intentions. That just doesn't happen. But now, because of this whole narration cheat thing, we know that Jack is not a good person. I mean, if you already didn't know that because you had, read the first book that this is plagiarized off of. So Anna says of course she would like to go, and he sends her off to make all the reservations, but she knows that her boyfriend, who gets jealous when she speaks to the help, probably is not going to enjoy that she's going on an overnight trip with her boss.
And it's really exciting for her because that's a legitimate big fucking deal. I mean, never mind the fact that Anna's job is a sham and I don't understand how she has it, but whatever. The thing is, you just start a new job and you get invited to a literary conference in New York. That's a very big, exciting thing that would happen.
When she gets back, there's another email from Gray, and he's saying, "Yes, please." And she's like, "Oh man, he wants me to move in." Anna's taken aback by this entire thing, and she says she hasn't had a free moment to sort of process what's been going on because they got back together and they spent the entire weekend together. And this essentially is what moving in together is about. There are people who would read this book and go, "Oh my gosh, how romantic, he's inviting her to move in." But really, when you think about the evidence, he's trying to invade every area of her life. He's bought the company she works for. He's bought her car. All the music on her iPad is his. She doesn't talk to her friends, and he doesn't have any friends by his own admission. He's slowly just infiltrating every area of her life, and now he's like, "Hey, why don't you move in so that I can keep an eye on you at all times? And when I can't keep an eye on you, I'm going to send a bodyguard after you so that he can keep an eye on you." And regardless of if the GSP is after them, this is freaky, and this is why I can't get behind this relationship, whether it's BDSM or domestic violence, whatever it is. These two people together just in this relationship suck.
Christian Grey, however, does his usual crazy pants thing. He's like, no, I don't care. I know that you're an adult and you make your own decisions, but actually you don't, because I am a fucking psychopath.
Anna is so taken aback by this that she actually shouts at her computer. She's all, "No!" And everyone in the office turns around and looks at her like, "What the hell, you're shutting out your computer?" And she's like, "Oh, damn, I forgot to save a document." I really like it when Anna does stupid things and other people around her notice. It's like sometimes we get this little glimmer of evidence that people know that Anastasia Steele is as stupid as she actually is.
Then she's all, "But no, bitch, please, I'ma do what I want." I mean, not really, because she's Anna, but that's kind of actually almost what she says. She doesn't really ask him for permission. She's like, "No, I'm doing this," which is rare that she is like that, and I am moderately impressed by her. So this naturally means that Christian Grey has to go mega psychopath. He continues to run his company like he is playing Monopoly, and he just issues a nonsensical corporate moratorium on travel expenses, and that all travel expenses now must be approved by the top tier of the company, which is only Christian Grey now. It's just so ridiculous. And all of this happens in like one page. But yeah, so anyway, so Jack is now still going to the conference, but Anna can no longer go because her psychotic boss, who is also her boyfriend, refuses to approve her travel expenses to go. So that's a thing that happened.
During this time, she gets another email, and it's from Mrs. Rape, and it's all, Anna, I think we got off on the wrong foot on account of how I raped your boyfriend when he was 15. Maybe we should have lunch and fix this situation between us. What are the topics of conversation when you're at lunch with a statutory rapist?
All this stuff with Jack really pisses me off because, well, one, because Christian Grey is a fucking psychopath, but also since Jack is supposed to be analogous to the main villain in the first Twilight book, you know that endgame on all of this is that Christian Grey is right, and everything he did to protect her was totally justified because Jack is a creeper. And so there will be no apologies. The only apologies will be Anna apologizing for not trusting his psychotic judgment.
What's gonna happen? Jack is a terrible human being. So it sucks because he's right, but he's also so very wrong. Later on that day, Jack sends her out for lunch, and she's about to go out, but she remembers that she promised Grey that she wouldn't leave the building because he allowed her to come into work without a bodyguard. So she's not supposed to leave, but she's gonna do it anyways. The phone rings, and it's Misery again. So she picks up, and it's Christian Grey on the other line, and he's like, you promised you wouldn't leave the building. He says that this is why he didn't want her to go back at work, because she may need to go outside, or use the bathroom, or breathe, or do any number of things that he didn't approve of. She tells him that he's being suffocated, and he's actually a little surprised by this. He's like, am I being suffocating? Is it suffocating you that I don't want you to go outside and I'm making decisions for you and I'm also stalking you and having you watch? Is this all overbearing? And Anna's like, yeah, a little. So she actually works for a while. She edits some stuff and she does, I don't really want her to work. Like, I don't really want to read about her working. I just think it's funny that she doesn't. But now she's working and I'm like, I don't care.
So she ends up having to stay late at work because of contrivance reasons. There's stuff that she needs to do because she can't go to this conference thing, whatever. So she has to stay late, and her first thought is how angry Christian Grey is gonna be. Sometimes you have to fucking stay late at work, and the fact that her psycho boyfriend is gonna be angry that she has to stay late for work, it's like, I know that there have been so many red flag moments already, but like, really? What are you doing? What are you doing with your life?
After they're done, he offers to buy her a drink as a reward for working late. And she's like, what? I can't ever. I gotta wash my hair for forever. You know, something like that. And he's like, come on, just a quickie. And she's like, no, I can't, thanks. And he does that really annoying thing where he sits on her desk. I hate when people sit on my desk. What makes you think that I want your butt germs on my desk, on my paperwork? Just don't do that ever to people. Anna's getting a little nervous now because his butt germs are all on her desk. And she's glancing at the clock and trying to, you know, see when Grey will be there. And it's still 5 minutes away. So it's kind of tense, except the part where it's not really at all, because Anna will never die. I wish Jack would produce a nice knife and maybe get to stabbing a little, but it's not gonna happen.
Sure enough, it turns out that Jack is a creepy creeper and he like hits on her or whatever. It was like one of those things where people describe a basic action but add a lot of loaded words to it to make it sound worse than it is. He was sitting there and in my personal space and basically space raping me. That's pretty much what was happening. That's how I felt.
He asks after her weekend and she says she had a great weekend, and he's like, with your boyfriend? And she's like, yes. And then he goes, what does he do? And she thinks, owns your ass. It's now become a joke that he owns everything. She finally just admits that he is, of course, Christian Grey, owner of the entire world. Jack finds this kind of hard to believe, like, oh, you with Grey? I love that that's everyone's reaction, like, oh gosh, wow, you landed a billionaire. It's because they don't know that he's actually a psycho murder rapist boyfriend.
Christian Grey meets her outside of her work with his Audi, and at first he's all, oh man, my girlfriend's angry, I'm like really anxious and tense about it, and Anna's like, I am kind of angry, but also you're next to me, and that interferes with my ability to function and have proper, you know, brain functions. I have the flu, leave me alone.
It's pretty cool to be them because you can solve all major problems with like kisses and stuff.
There's absolutely no discussion of how inappropriately he behaved. She's just like, you know, yeah, I'm just so in love with you that I can't even consider that you're a tremendous douche.
They get to his house pretty quickly, his apartment. Usually we get a ton of conversation in the car, but we get to the apartment quickly because it's now a time to have another sexy time scene. So they get in the elevator, and at that moment, you know, elevators are like the solve everything vehicle for this relationship. So they're in there, and you know, stuff happens.
I don't know if it's that I'm like glossing over the chapter because I can't be bothered to read it more closely than I have to, but it was like the next thing I knew we were in an elevator, and then Gray was stopping the elevator, and then they were having sex in the elevator, and then we were back in his apartment.
Also, we get him magically producing a foil packet. So this isn't like the normal producing of the foil packet where he has got that whole factory in his pocket and workers are in there producing these foil packets for him, but this is like magical production of a foil pocket. Like he reached behind her ear and magically produced. Also, he like rips her underwear off. So it not only rips like or takes off, it says that he tears through them with his adept fingers and they disintegrate in his hand. Oh, that's awesome. That's a cool power to have. It's another magical power. Like, you know, foil packet behind the ear, and also your underwear will turn to dust at a mere touch.
And they ate dinner, and they kind of had a conversation about how inappropriate he is, but it was like all of their relationship conversations where Anna like brings up a real issue, and then Gray's like, yeah, but no. But no. And Anna's like, you're right, no. And then that's it. Then they like make out and everything's fine.
So we've come to this great portion of the evening where Anna says that she will move in with him if he promises not to interfere with her work anymore. And he actually says, you do that? You barely know me. So he's like dissuading her. He's like, are you sure? I could be a murderer. But Anna's all, I know you well enough. Nothing's ever gonna scare me away. Like, you could kill me and then I'd just be dead in your apartment forever, and that'd be totally okay with me, apparently, because nothing ever is going to make her run away, is the basic gist of what she's saying.
And then the chapter ends because they're having their Christian Grey's right, let's make up moment when Taylor walks in and says that Mrs. Rape is on her way up. Ha! We're halfway there, guys. The ending might actually come.